as we made our ground and the cube in our previous lecture, in our current lecture, let's look at the first person view. How do we define or design the first person view of the VR experience? So if you look over here, right now we just have the camera normally connected as we do in Unity. So whenever we are creating an experience, we are basically looking at it from an outside or a third person view. Whereas if you look at VR experience, it's actually a first person view, whereas the camera are your eyes. So you have to imagine the entire experience when you put on the headset to be seen through your eyes in the first person. So how do you create this kind of first person view in Unity? So our today's lecture will mainly focus on creating the first person view in Unity. So let's look at that. So we'll be using the main camera itself, but look, understand the steps now first. Okay. The first thing that we'll be doing is we'll be creating a rig or a body model. So imagine our head. So we'll be creating our head first. For doing that, let's do this. Before that, make sure the camera is reset to 000 position. I'll tell you the reason why we are doing that. Okay. So create an empty child. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to rename this as the camera rig, and this is basically the head of the person. Make sure you reset it at the center, the origin. And what you have to understand over here is when you're creating a camera rig from an empty child, so you are going to make it like the head. So whenever your head moves around here and there, you're going to only move the camera rig. Okay. So what the camera rig is like our head, and the main camera is like our eyes. So for doing so, you have to make sure that the main camera is part of our camera rig. So once we copy paste the main camera in the camera rig, what it essentially means is basically our camera rig is the head, and the main camera are the eyes or the first person view of the entire VR experience. So please just keep this in mind. Again, I'll repeat, the camera rig acts like the head of your VR experience, and the main camera are like your eyes. Okay. So make sure initially both of them, the camera rig and the main camera, are at 000. And then what you can do is whenever you have to move your head, you have to move only your camera rig. Do not touch your main camera. What it essentially means is if you have to look anywhere or if you have to change position, the position of your head changes, but where your eyes remain on your head is always at the same position. So that is what it essentially means. So whenever you have to move always your camera rig. So over here you see my camera is at 000. It is always at 000 position, whereas my camera rig has changed its position. So always make sure that your camera rig, only the position of your camera rig is changed. Your main camera is never changed. As I explained you, the head and the eyes. Camera rig is your head, which can change position. That's why I'm dragging and changing its position, as you can see over here. But the main camera always stays at the same position. Always stays at 000. Okay? Because your eyes do not change its effect. Now, what I want to do is emulate the VR experience. So as I talked in one of my previous lecture, we'll be using an emulator to show you the entire VR experience. So for that, let's start with first understanding the GVR emulator. It's called as a GVR editor emulator. It comes with your Google VR SDK. What I'm going to do is just drag and drop over here. If you click on the GVR editor emulator, you'll see various camera controls. So if you keep the Alt pressed and move around, it's going to move the entire reticle. So I'll show you exactly. So keep these two things in mind. You'll be using the Alt and the control along with your mouse change to look around in your VR experience. So we have added the GVR editor emulator, which is the emulator used by Google VR Cardboard to emulate the VR experience. Okay. Now, next thing that I'm going to add is I'm going to add a reticle. So as I talked about your camera rig being your head, your main camera being your eyes, and the reticle, think about the reticle in your eyes. So that is where it's exactly pointing. So think about the reticle in your eyes and where is it exactly looking is what we want to show on the screen. So if you go over here and say GVR reticle pointer, so you're going to take this and you're going to make it a child of main camera. So I'm going to drag and drop this. So what it essentially means is your camera rig is your head, your main camera is your eyes, and your reticle pointer is the reticle in your eyes. So that's what it essentially means. You have to keep this in mind very carefully, especially when you're designing your virtual reality experience. These three things will make sure that when you're making a virtual reality experience, it's in the first person view and it's the virtual experience you desire. So let's play this and see how it actually looks like. Okay, so you will see I'm holding the alt button and I'm looking around. So if you can see, I'm holding the alt button and I'm moving the mouse. I can look, this is my directional light or the sun. So you can see over here, I can move, I can look around here and there. I can go on, this is my cube. This is where exactly my head is placed and my eyes are looking at. So that white reticle is exactly where my eyes are looking at. So this is the importance of the reticle. So overall, this is the first person view that you will be using for making all your VR experiences. So do keep this in mind.